the answer is quite simple.
Hmm.
There's no sound without this book. Like, this book is there. In the same way that I insist that Syncopation has to be a novel in verse, or that I insist that the story has to be told poetically, I think sound and this body of work, you cannot untangle them. It's not that Syncopation has musicality in it. This book is music.
Yeah.
And we have this one bright, short life that we have to live. And if you are compelled to make art, you will find the time to do it.
Welcome to Journey of the Art, where we discuss the artist, unravel the art, and explore the road between. Hi, and welcome to Journey of the Art. Today, I'm joined by Whitney French to discuss her latest work, Syncopation. Syncopation is a science fiction novel about two women searching for meaning and purpose in a catastrophic world where memory is currency. Syncopation is out now from Buckwriter Books, an imprint of Wolsack and Wynne. Whitney is a writer, educator, and publisher. She is a certified arts educator and an assistant professor in creative writing at the University of British Columbia. Whitney is also the co-founder and publisher of Harbour, the only Black queer feminist press in Canada. Welcome, Whitney.
Thank you so much, Lola, for inviting me. This is incredible. I'm very excited.
You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. I'm super excited because it's not all the time that I get to speak with people who live in Vancouver like me. You're probably the third person that I've been able to speak with in Vancouver, who is also a publisher. So this is extra cool. So really excited. Before we get started, here's a reminder to look up Journey of the Art wherever you get your podcasts. So check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms. To listen on the go, follow the show, and leave a comment. This really helps to boost our visibility so more folks like you can discover and join the community. I'd also love to connect with you on Instagram, so please follow the show at Journey of the Art Pod. Okay, let's get the show on the road. I wanted to start us off with a question about a workshop you facilitate, and it's called the Tree Sessions.
Oh.
And for those who don't, I know.
That's a throwback. You did your research.
I was so sure that this one was going to be cute. Very surprised. Mm-hmm. But anyway, for those who are listening, the Tree Sessions is a quarterly writing workshop, which takes place under a tree for an afternoon. And I think this is so cool. And I wanted to ask you what inspired you to start it.
Oh my goodness. Oh, bringing it all the way back to little Whitney. So I will answer your question with a story because I am a storyteller. When I was a child, I loved climbing trees. I loved writing in trees. My very first blog was called writinginnatree.blogspot.com. Shout out to Blogspot. Wow. But I've always had a strong fascination with trees, and not just with the trees themselves, but also just like the way that they provide nourishment for the lands around them. And I used to climb trees to hide from punishment or hide from bullies or hide from chores. So I've had a long-standing relationship with these beautiful giant elders, really. These trees have been around for so long. And so Tree Sessions was really something that I wanted to do for myself originally, just to reconnect with like the cycles of the seasons. So each tree session is paired with a season, whether it's like an equinox or solstice. And I just had a lot of fun writing into these spaces, into these transitions of seasons. And then I wanted to open it up to other people. Oh my goodness, Tree Sessions. What a throwback. Unfortunately, I don't run them anymore because I have other projects on the go. But it was like one of my first workshops that I consistently ran and had a lot of fun and a lot of learning from other folks who might have a really strong connection with the natural world or might have a disconnect and want to reconnect through the written word. So wow, I was very not ready for that question.
Right. I mean, I was very intrigued by it because there's a side of me that's rediscovering the beauty of nature.
Mm,
And, I can only imagine what that session looks like, pairing the two things that are two very cool things, writing and nature.
hmm
I think there's a lot that we can learn from nature. And I think there's such a beautiful space that nature provides. And so when I saw that, I was like, why have I never heard of something like this before? So
I'm sure
I
other
was like,
people
yeah,
do it.
I
Other
don't think
communities.
I haven't seen it before.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah, no, like I know there's definitely people who do like nature walks and nature writing. And like also shout out to my homie Shanice Jen Muhammad who does like actual like walks through space and invites people to write poetry. Tree sessions is a little different because it only happens 4 times a year and you are quite literally writing under a tree. Um, and that to me feels really it feels as though when we think about writing, it's in a stuffy room or in a small, quiet office, and it's in a space of solitude. And very often it is like that, especially when you are trying to get a project done or a long form piece completed. However, if you're in a space of generating something or breaking from like a place of being stagnant creatively, writing a tree or the tree sessions, yeah, it's
right.
the space and the atmosphere kind of speaks to you. And I've done this in trees that or in parks. I've done this also in like a swamp. So it was kind
Wow.
of like sitting on like an arm of a tree that was like within a swamp. And so like the area is like quite moist and damp. I have yet to do it in Vancouver though. And the trees in Vancouver are world famous and very old, some of the oldest in North America. So I might have to bring it back.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to bring back. Okay, so we are recording this on November 17th, 2025, which is about 6 weeks away from the end of the year. What word would describe your writing this year?
Chaotic.
I
Absolutely
love the honesty.
chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. 2025. I almost call it 2026 because I can't wait. 2025 has been life changing for me as a writer, as a person, as the breathing entity on planet Earth. And that had a direct impact on my creative practice. So it's been
Right.
absolute chaos. Everything that I thought I knew about how to write a thing, mm-mm. All the systems I had in place, my writing routine, mm-mm.
Hmm.
And then so many profound writing revelations kind of volcanoed out of my body as well. So just chaos.
Hmm. Well, here's hoping that 2026 is a little less chaotic.
I just want to chill. I want a boring 2026. Sign me up.
Well, I don't know about a boring 2026 because you just released a book,
I
and
know.
this is a very busy time.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking about your book, we're talking about syncopation. I have to ask you about the structure of the writing. And so the book is a novel in verse, which means it's a story that's written in poetry from beginning to end. And it seems as though that even in the narration, you wanted to tell us that this is a story that bends because it's
Mm.
set in a world that is, almost apocalyptic, and people are really literally running from acid rain. So, what inspired this style?
Whew. I wish I was inspired by the style. Perhaps a more accurate word is like the poetry kind of tackled me, or no, actually, let me rephrase that. When I think about story, I've been thinking about this a lot in my own practice and also with my students, like how to describe to somebody that a story is like a living thing.
Hmm.
It's raw, it's feral, it's roiling, it can't necessarily be tamed. Structure helps so that a story can breathe on a page, but a story is not entirely of my control. And so this idea of like, oh, I saw a thing and it inspired me and I decided to do it this way, has happened to some stories, absolutely not this one.
Right. Right.
um, and so the poetic form, it took me years to articulate this and figure this out that this story could only be told through poetry. no matter how many times I tried to do any other way. And that poetic conceit for me took a while to not just own, but to finesse. And the more that I grew in verse, pardon the pun, or like in practice, with that poetic conceit, the more that the story revealed new elements to me. Like the inspiration technically for the story itself, not necessarily the poetic form, was from a Tumblr post that I saw. The Tumblr artist goes by Ebony Shade or Sade or, oh my goodness, I can't remember exactly. But back in the Tumblr days, you just like collect really cool, dope photographs. And it was really this very dark skinned Black woman who was bald, and she had this helmet on, the space helmet, but it wasn't like an astronaut helmet that you think of. It's actually made out of wire. It's very like kind of aesthetic and artistic, and she is just gorgeous. And that was the character O. And I just wrote a poem, just like I saw something really cool on Tumblr, and I wrote a poem, and I reached out to the person like, your photo's dope. Here's a cool poem. And then nothing happened for years. But the poetry came first. It always came first.
I love that. And I really, really love how art literally birthed this art. That's so cool. So at the beginning of the book, we encounter Z and O, who live in this world where the rain is acidic, as I said before. So the rain falls and burns trees. And I found this really curious. Nature eliminating itself. What were you trying to tell us here?
Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna take that one. Nature destroying itself. What was I trying to say? I think I was just trying to set a scene of, when I think about post-apocalyptic, I'm trying to think about, there's images that we have seen before and images that we have not seen before. And I was also very curious about a type of apocalypse that is informed by the natural world. And yes, we're quite literally living in a space of climate catastrophe. And so we're going to be encountering some of this for the next couple of generations and the generations after us. But I really wanted to focus in on that. And I don't really know if I have much more beyond thinking about the apocalyptic, mushroom cloud images or zombie apocalypses. Like I was very bored with all of these very trite ways of thinking about things. And I was also quite bored with like an abysmal apocalypse because in Syncopation, there's a lot of growth and lush and rivers and mountains and islands and earthquakes. So there's a connection between the characters living in their version of an apocalypse and the earth responding and perhaps having a reckoning, but not necessarily in a moralistic way. It's just the earth doing its thing because its lifespan is so ancient. And that scale I was really interested in as well.
So we can't talk about this book without talking about the characters Z and O. And I'm always curious about the origin of characters, as I think that understanding the origin of characters helps you know the why of a story. Not necessarily the what, but the why of a story. And so I wonder if you'd like to share about how these characters came to be. I think you already touched on it when you saw this photo. But I mean, if that was the character of O, where did Z come from?
Ooh, great question. Z came much, much later. I was like obsessed with O. Like I knew O's family. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about process. So I never did this, but I really wanted to. And I wanted to go through O and Z and Obari, who's another character. And I was obsessed with their hair. And adornment is also something that shows up in Syncopation. And I actually wanted to like grow my hair out really long, which is like Z has these like kind of beautiful twist outs. And then I wanted to cut my hair, like buzz it off, just like Obari. And then I wanted to go completely bald, like and I never got to the bald. I did have a buzz cut, but I wasn't brave enough.
I did. And it looked really nice when I saw those photos.
Thank you. But like, there was just something about embodying them.
People Google Whitney, find the picture.
Thank you, Lord. Thanks for the shout out and the looks. Black girls gotta have lots of hair looks.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. That's just really what it is. But I was really obsessed with embodying these characters. And so O literally came from a photograph. And then thinking about her, thinking who she is, asking her a lot of questions, going out on dates with O. I go on dates with all my characters. And then Z at first was just like a love interest. And then I'm like, well, I got to get to know who she is too. And I spent time with her. And Z ended up almost taking over the entire book the more that I spent time with her. And Z, at first, an earlier version of her was kind of the foil to O, who is really interested in exploring the stars, and Z is really grounded in the earth. And if I were to choose, and there is a part of me in all of my characters, but kind of like at a fundamental level, my politics align with Z's principles. But I had to make her so different from myself. And so it was really fun to explore that element and create a space where Z is her own person and breathes and lives. And the other piece that I had a lot of fun with was Z is somebody who, although I align with the politics, I feel like her brand of messy is something that I would be so afraid of. So again, I'm asking myself, I would take O out on a date, but like I take Z out on a date and they'd be such different dates. Like, would I ask for a second date from Z? I don't think so.
Because they're both very different.
And so that was really playful for me to kind of understand my characters on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And then also thinking about their relationality to one another, their relationality to the earth, their relationality to the stars, their relationality to the people in their lives, and the relationships as well to people that they do not know.
Right.
The sense of awareness of like a community that exists, but you might not necessarily have to engage with them. I think that was really important.
Right. So just following up on what you just said, you talked about embodying these characters. What did these characters teach you about yourself?
So much. This book took over 10 years to write. So there are versions of Whitney in here who has learned a lot, who's dated a lot, who has transformed and redefined definitions of love. And I think above all else, this is a love story. And I was very ashamed of that, actually. I didn't think that was serious enough. I didn't think that was a serious enough topic to explore. And no shade to people who write romance, but when you write romance, you're writing romance. You're like, this is a love story. Here's the happily ever after. This is the thing. This is a science fiction, post-apocalyptic, poetry in verse. Oh, by the way, it's a love story. And I didn't want to shrug that really core pulse of the story. I wanted actually to make it the focus. So I learned a lot about myself as a person who loves and who, through the act of loving, have hurt people. Through the act of loving has been hurt, who is trying to love better, romantically, familially, through deep, powerful friendships, and also love the land better, love the trees, and show respect in those ways. I also learned a lot about my writing that I had this idea almost 10 years ago, and it was way too big, and I did not have the skill set to pull it off. And so a lot of syncopation, which is why I talk about this as a novel in verse, I actually became a student of poetry again. I took a number of poetry workshops, too many to count, so many fantastic ones. And I don't think I would have done the same thing or had the similar approach if I wrote a novel. I would just be like, this is my novel. Here's a draft. Here's a draft. Here's a draft. Whereas with this work, I wanted to learn different poetic forms. I wanted to deepen my literary aesthetic. Like, what are the aesthetics and the principles within this work of poetry? How can I express this narrative thread line in a haiku? How is that even possible? And so it was a bit of self-excavation and creative excavation, it was also torturous. I did these things the hard way, whereas in writing straight prose would have been very different. However, I didn't want to do that, and particularly with syncopation and with sound. And forgive me if I'm bleeding into another question, but
That's okay.
I feel like there's just some elements of this story that had to be told poetically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I love what you're saying about sound, because that is there's a lot of music in this book. Even the title syncopation refers to rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Why does music play such a huge role in this book?
It, it's such an interesting question because I'm just like, how can it not?
I mean, I think poetry is rhythm, right? So that
Yeah.
would explain it to some extent.
Mm.
But it seemed to me like there was a depth of music that you wanted us to encounter. And so and maybe I'm answering my own question, but let me give you space to answer
No,
that
that's,
question.
I think no, this is a very good question. And it's not that the question is difficult to answer. It's just the answer is quite simple.
Hmm.
There's no sound without this book. Like this book is there in the same way that I insist that syncopation has to be a novel in verse, or that I insist that the story has to be told poetically. I think sound and this body of work, that you cannot untangle them. It's not that syncopation
Hmm.
has musicality in it. This book is music.
Yeah.
And I say that to say that, in particular, and like the group that she comes from, the neo-griots, they are human beings that experience sound first. So if you walk into a room, some people experience like sight, or like the colors, or the energy of a lot of people in a space, or even the smell first. Whereas and the people that she comes from, it's everything is vibrational.
Hmm.
And we do experience vibrations as human beings. And so I think, no, I know for a fact that infusing sound, thinking about word choice extremely deliberately, the way that things sound off the ear, is an invitation for the reader to better understand how O moves through the world.
Right.
And by extension, the story, like every being is touched by vibration,
Right.
literally through the earthquakes, but then also
Yeah.
through sound of their engagement, their voices, their interactions, their arguments, and then their own living musics within them. I have no idea if I'm answering your question. I'm just
You
like,
are
I
answering.
just want to be like, the book's about sound.
Yeah. I
In
do,
the
and
same way
I
that a
think
piano is about sound.
yeah. I do like that. I do like that a lot. So in many ways, this is a story about migration. Right? You talked about it being about music and love and sound and nature. There's a lot of nature as well. But it's also a story about migration. And I wonder if there are any intersection points between this story and your personal experience with migration. I know you talked about the fact that there are elements of you in this book, but I wonder if there is something there that you want to talk about.
I don't know if I've thought of it that way. My own personal migration. So I have, like many writers, interesting relationships with like this concept of home and homelands. And my parents are from Jamaica, but they came here quite young, so they're deeply Canadianized. I was from a small town in Ontario, and that small town has impacted me in a plethora of ways, positive and negative. However, the thing that I take away from it most is my relationship to the natural world. I'm definitely not a city kid. Definitely didn't like ride escalators, or, there was no, I don't even know if there's escalators in Bradford when I was a kid. Straight up. I climbed trees. I played in swamps. There was apple orchards in my backyard. We rode our bikes like till the sun went down. It's along the Ontario green belt. Like, you drive past the town, it just smells like manure. It's just what it is. And so the way that I'm connected to the natural world, I feel is connected to that hometown.
Right.
But then I also moved to Montreal, and then I've also lived in Toronto, and now I live in Vancouver. And strangely enough, I wrote that whole scene about Vancouver before even knowing I was going to live here.
Wow.
So that was really interesting. And those migrations, but the characters migrate. The characters they have to move. They have to flee the rains, and they have to escape the earthquakes. And they are also travelers. They are nomadic. There are things that they desire in the world that are not available in the place that they presently are in. So they have to move. And so I think that's as much as I've really thought about migration, but I've never really considered the parallel of those things. Because I'm a child of immigrants, but I'm not an immigrant myself.
All right, so this is the part of the show where I ask you a few questions to help other writers. And one of the things that you do apart from writing is help other writers overcome their writing challenges and achieve their goals. What would you say is a common challenge amongst writers?
A common challenge is perfectionism or the illusion of perfectionism. A common challenge is completing a project because the fear of perfectionism is so great. Another
Right.
challenge is writers not calling themselves writers.
Oh, really?
And not believing in their craft. Absolutely. Um, oh, I write on the side. Meanwhile, they have like 8 novels underneath their bed. So not owning the role of being a writer. Another challenge is and I'm saying this with trepidation, because my life has changed dramatically. I have a new family member who is quite fresh. And it's the illusion of time, right? It's like, oh, I don't have enough time to write. And we have this one bright, short life that we have to live. And if you are compelled to make art, you will find the time to do it. And I don't know how you're going to do it because I don't have your life. I don't have advice about that. But that's something that a challenge that I always hear people say, I don't have enough time. How often are you scrolling on Instagram? How often are you watching your Netflix programs? How often are you talking on the phone with a person that you perceive to be a friend, but you've been friends with them for a really long time, but really they're kind of draining your energy? Are there things that are in your life that are taking away from your creative space? Are you even giving yourself permission for moments of solitude to write? These are not easy things, but those are massive challenges that I notice with people when they're writing. And when I say people, I also include myself in all of those things. The perfectionism piece, I don't want to give this manuscript to the editors. It's not perfect. Or I don't have time because there's a bajillion things that are on my plate. And I do call myself a writer, but I also feel weary about that title sometimes. And that prevents me from doing the creative work. And I think the last piece, a challenge that a lot of writers have, is they forget the fun. They forget the fun. I had so much fun. Like the scene you're talking about, fleeing the acid rain. I wrote that in Toronto by the waterside after talking with a student of mine who loves to rollerblade. And we were just talking about rollerblading. We were talking about craft. We were talking about writing. We were talking about rollerblading. Nothing to do with my book. And then I went by the water and I'm just like, that was a lovely conversation. And then I just got to work. And I was, because I kind of freed up this space in me. Like I had fun with another person. And it had nothing to do with productivity. It had nothing to do with my creative practice. It was just connecting with someone. And then I just stared at the water for a really long time. And I'm like, I got this scene. And it just came out of me. And I've edited a little bit, but that scene you're referring to has not changed that much from sitting on a rock by the water talking to a pal about rollerblading. And so the fun could make you way more productive than you give yourself credit for. I learned that from some very good and wise friends in my life.
So the reason I ask you that question is there's some very convincing testimonials about how well you help writers. And I said to myself, I have to ask Whitney how she's doing this.
All right, Lola,
And
come for
so,
me.
and, and I love the fact that, I just asked you what are some challenges that writers go through, but I love the fact that you have not distanced yourself from these challenges. Like you said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and I am all these things. And I think that is the hallmark of a great teacher. It's the humility to know that the struggles that other writers are going through, they also have, right? But I do want to ask you, how are you helping people? What are some strategies that you use to help people, so much so that they they're very grateful to you?
Oh God. Some of the strategies. I think the very first strategy is I listen. I really, really listen. Um, I'm a middle child, so I've had a lot of practice listening. I'm dead serious. Ask any middle child you know. I don't know if you're a middle child, but like,
Yeah, my sister. I don't have a middle child, but my sister would agree.
because like the eldest, you already know. The youngest, ugh, you already know. I'm the middle of three, so I'm dead in the middle. And so you have to practice listening a lot. So listening is a deep strategy for me, and hearing the ways that this person really is excited to write and can't quite get there. Another strategy is, and that's actually kind of how this book got done, is buddy writing. And in my acknowledgments, I shout out my buddy writers. And you pretty much just say, like, okay, I'm going to work on syncopation for 25 minutes. And you just go. And there's like a writing group that I started called Writing While Black. And that ran for about 7 years. And that's just asking Black writers to come together in a space and to work and to write. There's another writing group that I did. It's like a 6 a.m. writing group, literally just called the 6 a.m. writing with Whitney group at the time. And we just wake up at 6 a.m. We just write. And I think that strategy of having an accountability buddy, and if you're not the kind of person who wants to write with people, I definitely respect that. But having a buddy who will call you on a Friday and be like, so how'd the week go? Or someone on a Sunday say, like, send me your chapter that you worked on. That accountability piece has been a strategy that I use, and so therefore I help with other people. And not everything that I do will help other folks, right, but I want to give folks like an array of like those things. And I think the one of the key things, particularly I talk to my students about this, I tell them to trust your brain. And what I mean about that is know how your brain works. And don't try to do the writerly thing. So I just said writing 6 a.m. group. I'm a morning person. Like something about being in the dreamscape and the creative space are really close. They're like cousins to me. So I like to write early. I cannot do that late night writing, like pulling an all-nighter, unless I'm like pressed for a deadline. I hate doing it. I don't like writing at night. I get too sleepy. And that's how my brain works. And once people understand how they work, you're not trying to copy what other writers are doing in terms of their practice and their process and their routines. You're actually listening to yourself. And then another piece, and also another shout out to one of my writing mentors, Rachel Thompson, who modeled this for me, which is, treating yourself when you're writing. Because I'm a middle child and because I'm gendered in a particular way that I feel as though I don't deserve nice things in life, and I'm working on that. I would never give myself something nice, even if I achieve something nice, because it's expected that I'm supposed to be productive and be good. And so what had ended up happening with my accountability buddy is if I finish this chapter, I take them out for lunch. But if I don't take them out for lunch. Or if I finish these sequences of poems, I'm going to get them like super cute earrings. But if I don't, I'm not buying them no earrings. And because I have that middle child anxiety pressure and I don't want to let other people down, and I know it's messed up, but it's true, I'm going to do it for somebody else, even if I wouldn't necessarily treat myself. And we'll save that for therapy. But what I'm saying is you got to know what your brain does.
Yeah.
And if your brain is like, I can't write in complete solitude, I need to be around a bunch of noise and buzzing people, then that's great. Or like I can't write with music playing, or I can only write in the same place with the same cup. Just trust what your brain is doing, and that will ease you into the space. It'll allow you to do that. And then like the last thing that I was thinking about as well as a strategy that I use, um, revision is where the magic happens.
Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody is like pulling a Jay-Z and like going in the booth the first time and just killing their first manuscript that doesn't exist. But in the other piece, sorry, such a weird reference. And then the other piece
Still works.
it still works. It still works. Oh my gosh, I forgot the other piece. It just fell right out my head. Um,
Daisy took it away because you summoned him.
Jay-Z, forgetting the pieces. It was something about that. I don't know where it went. It might come back. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I have to come up with systems that work for me.
Yeah.
And they might not be systems that work for other people. But the best thing that I could do is move myself out of the way, keep trying and experimenting, and also celebrate the wins, right?
Right.
And that's like
Right.
something that feels really lovely, you know, like, oh, I finished a draft, or I finished a chapter, or I finished 3 sentences. To celebrate those wins can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I also talk, like what works for me, like again with the sound pieces, I actually send myself voice notes when I feel like I had a really good writing day. And so I'll be like, yo, this story is amazing. Oh my gosh, can you believe that you did da 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 da? And I would just hype myself up when I'm feeling nice about myself, because I know less than 6 days later, I'm going to hate what I wrote.
Hmm.
And I play it back to myself. So it's a bit of a time travel experience.
Hmm. I love all of it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if any of those strategies help anybody.
No. Oh, you're speaking to me. You just don't know. Anyway, I love all of it. I love all of it, and I wouldn't out myself. Like I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't say it on air the things that pertain to me
The
just
specifics.
yet. The specifics, but yes, you're hitting all the points. What are you looking forward to in the new year? I know less chaos, but
Yeah.
what other things are you looking forward to in the new year?
I am looking forward to filling my creative cup with other incredible art.
Hmm.
If you've spoken to, and you have spoken to so many writers and art makers, when you finish a big project, especially a big project that's been sitting in your heart for 10 years, you're not really trying to jump to the next thing. And then everyone's like, what's next? What's going to do that? I'm like, don't ask me.
I just got through this one.
No, I've got the projects. Like there's
Oh.
post-it notes and I know exactly what I don't want to talk about it. Because I've just been doing so much work talking about syncopation. I'm not ready to talk about those ones.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the other piece. You could protect your peace. You could refuse. That's a really beautiful tip. And it's also in line with like the politics of Audre Lorde, like this active refusal. You don't need my trauma. You're not going to get it unless I tell you you can have the way that I decide to curate the story of that. And in that same vein, I don't have to tell you what my next project is because it's not ready to go out in the air. And that is a way of protecting your peace. And that feels really good to me. But all that to say, in 2026, I just want to like take in other people's dope art.
Yeah.
I just want to fill up myself. I want to like get re-inspired. I want to get giddy. I want to see some dance performances. I want to like listen to like an album from cover to cover. I want to just soak things up again, as opposed to constantly be creating. And that sounds a bit counterintuitive as a writer, because you're supposed to keep writing and keep creating. You need that pause. You need that rest. You need that replenishment. And
Right.
again, syncopation came from me looking at some dope photography on someone's Tumblr account.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to say that's how this book was birthed. What about your publishing house? Anything you're looking forward to with that? Do you want to tell the people about Hush Harbour?
Sure thing. So Hush Harbour Press is a queer, feminist, Black owned small press, and it is a baby of mine. I'm deeply privileged to learn that publishing in and of itself has been a long-standing, inaccessible market for a lot of folks that fall into those intersections.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be no Hush Harbour without the work of Makeda Silvera or Stephanie Martin, who started Sister Vision Press, which was a woman of color, queer forward press based in Toronto, circa like 1983 till 2001, I believe.
Wow.
And like that work is truly inspiring. And I mean, like, it actually sparks like a fire when I think about the incredible works that were put out for virtually no money and 100% volunteer work. And so Hush Harbour continues that tradition and that kind of work in that building. Yet Hush Harbour is very slow paced, intentionally so. Um, I am the co-founder and the publisher of Hush Harbour. I am so interested in stories that center and celebrate Black life and Black storytelling. We're also interested in publishing not just written books, but also sonic stories. You see my obsession with sound. And so any kind of stories that...
Maybe you should have been a musician.
my dad's a DJ, so...
See,
that's where the sound piece comes
called
from.
it.
There's a keyboard in the other room. There's a little piano, like a little apartment piano. I got a guitar, a bass, a djembe. Like there's sound and music
Wow.
is a thing. But it's not just music. It's also around the way that people speak, how people talk. You're a podcaster. You're hearing people like breathe life. I'm
Yeah.
also thinking about like morality. Like sound is like incredibly... it doesn't even make sense to say sound is special to me. Sound is how I experience life. And I think sometimes when we think about books, we get really hung up about like the written word. And it is beautiful and it is remarkable. And I did choose to make Syncopation a written piece. And that does not denote or take away from the way that we used to tell stories in front of a fire and just listen to each other's voices. Again, it comes back to that deep listening middle child complex that I have. But Hush Harbour is just put out our first book, and it's called The Sweet Spot. That poetry book was launched in May of this year. And we're also, I guess this is like an exclusive. We're looking
We only want the exclusives, but go for it.
Yeah, we're looking for single author collections of short fiction. That's what we're interested in our next project, and more on that later on. But yeah, Hush Harbour is also a way to express to people, because a lot of Canadian publishing, for folks who don't know, and I'm not talking about the big multinationals, I'm talking about like independent press, mid-sized presses. They are all often like kind of inherited presses. So they either started like 20, 30 years ago, or, they have an old hand, or the people who started it, it's kind of get passed down and passed down and passed down. And what I'm excited about Hush Harbour and other presses that are in a similar political vein is like, it's new life. It's new blood. It's folks who don't come from inherited wealth. It's folks who really just want to create artwork for their community and are moving at a pace that honors the story and honors people, as opposed to just pumping out products. Because I don't think a book is a product. A book is an artifact.
Right.
It's very special and sacred in that respect.
Right.
That's Hush Harbour in a nutshell.
Sorry, I just spoke over you, which is
No. That's how when you're excited, you're talking to a sibling and you talk on top of each other. It means like we getting closer, Lola. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Refreshingly nice. Final question, which I already gave you a hint about at the beginning. How do you stay on the journey of your art?
You did give me the heads up and I forgot.
I did. I know.
How do I stay on my journey?
I feel like you've referenced it from time to time throughout this conversation today.
I can review some things, but I think the main thing, I love art and art forms, sound, dance, visual art, reading, writing, poetry. That helps me stay on the path. Staying curious, being politically engaged with my world around me, asking the right questions, being in a room and talking to people without screens and phones, and like actually talking to the person and hearing them out, and building those connections, like countless times after I've seen like a beautiful ballet or had like a really awesome conversation with a friend. I just want to make something,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
I don't get that from necessarily getting anxious about how many books came out last year that like, that I should be writing like them and they should be writing like me. I love workshopping, but I don't really think a workshop inspires me to always write. It inspires me to revise, but doesn't inspire me to write.
Right.
And even though I am a university professor, I don't feel like the academic space is also ideal for inspiration. So to keep me on the path, and that's the thing, I love that. It's a journey, it's a path, it's a
Mm-hmm.
process. You have to keep walking it. It's not just like, oh, I published one book and it's done. It's like I have to continuously engage, and the path gets really dark and windy and difficult and tricky or
Right.
bright and exciting and joyful. And it's a slide. It's actually very useful, knowing that it's a path that opens up a lot for me. Um, it unfurls as opposed to it becoming like a checklist. An unfurling is the kind of life that I want.
Yeah.
Unfurling is the kind of art that I want to engage with, and I can only do that if I stay curious and I continue to like be curious about others and other people's work and listen. And I have to listen and listen to myself too. Like being informed with my body is something that I've neglected in my practice. But back to the embodied characters, like that's how I got to know my characters, is by thinking about their physicality.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Whitney. This has been a really delightful, I say that word a lot, but that's because I'm searching for the word that I really want to use. Hilarious, delightful, plus hilarious. I don't know what that word is, but
Mm.
I've laughed so much, and I think the best conversations are the ones where I'm laughing a lot. So thank you. Thank you for your honest answers and for all the laughter. And if you are watching us today and you would like to get Syncopation, there will be the links in the show notes or description box, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you just want to book a session with me. First of all, are you taking sessions?
Ooh, like you mean like tree sessions or just like
Yeah,
workshop
like
sessions?
just any like workshop sessions.
Like I am accessible. Like hit me up. I might be like, I need to take a nap for 3 months, but we can loop back in 3 months and make something happen. I'm
Okay.
always down to collaborate with people.
Okay, so there'll be links to reach you in the show notes or the description box. So
Mm.
thank you once again for coming.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Lola. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Thank you for reading the work. Thank you for taking a chance on reading like a science fiction novel in verse, which might not be everybody's bag, but I hope that you found something beautiful and enriching and engaging in the work.
Yeah, you're welcome. On the next episode, I'll be chatting with another inspiring artist. But before then, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you think about this show and this episode. Feel free to drop me a note here or send me a DM on Instagram at Journey of the Art Blood. Finally, please subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or follow and rate the show if you're listening elsewhere. Help me connect with other artists who need a dose of inspiration today. Until next time, stay on the journey of your art.